The women's basketball season has finally concluded, so I thought this would be a good time to highlight who I think the 10 best players throughout the season are. There are 3 big things I look for when evaluating players. First, I give the edge to players who can impact the game in multiple ways. Being an elite scorer is great, but the players who can find ways to impact the game when they are having a bad shooting night set themselves apart. The second is consistency. I value players who play at a high level almost every night over ones that might have an insane stretch of games but have long stretches where they play average. But most importantly, I look at the impact on winning. Is it a player where the team would be much worse if they weren't playing for them? That's something I value a lot, because at the end of the day, making your team better is all that matters. But now that's out the way, I'll start with who I have at number 10, and that person is Mikayla Blakes. This will probably be controversial, but I think Blakes has done enough to prove she was one of the best players in the entire country. I know Vanderbilt was only 500 in the SEC, and they were a first-round exit. But that wasn't because of Blakes. In fact, I would argue if you took her off this team, they wouldn't even make the tournament and would have been in the low percentile in the SEC. It's clear Blakes is a special talent. She's a true 3-level threat, both on and off the ball. She is a good playmaker, and she's able to score efficiently. She averaged 23 points for the entire season, and in the SEC it went up to 26 per game. The fact she plays even better against higher-level competition is what really sets her apart. And she's done it with incredible efficiency for a high-usage player. She's shooting 45.6% from the field and 34% from 3. The next step for her is to become a better defender and playmaker. The scoring is already there. It's about developing the other areas of her game. At number 9, I'm going with Flaujae Johnson. She went absolutely crazy in the 2024 NCAA tournament. When I saw how well she was playing, I knew she was going to have an All-American level season this year. And that's exactly what happened. Flaujae Johnson is one of the best two-way players in the game and is one of the best WNBA prospects regardless of class. If she declared this year, she easily would have went number 2 in the draft, which just shows how special she is. Her handles are nasty, she has an incredible layup package, she's fast, and she's a true 3-level scorer. Flaujae had a leg injury before the SEC tournament, and it clearly affected her game for a few weeks. But that doesn't change the fact she is a very special player. I have no doubt in my mind she's going to come back hungry next year and be even better. Texas has made their first Final Four in 2 decades, and Madison Booker is a major part of that. She is a mid-range assassin who can also play make and defend at a high level. Her size and skill set allow her to play multiple positions. Whatever Vic Schaefer needs from her, she's able to do it. She's by far one of the best mid-range scorers in the game. When she gets into her spots, it never feels like she's going to miss. The defense can cover her perfectly, and she is able to score anyway. She also has made massive improvements to her 3-point jump shot as she went from 30% to 40% from the field. It's on low volume, but the fact you can't leave her open from behind the arc is a huge deal. Madison Booker might not be putting up the crazy stats that some other players are, but it's very clear she's an exceptional player. Texas would not make it nearly as far as they did without her, and she steps up in the big games. The only reason I'm not ranking her higher is the consistency. She was dominant in a lot of games this year, but there are also some where she had some pretty cold shooting nights. Regardless, Madison Booker is a beast. It was obvious Sarah Strong was going to be a good basketball player, but the impact she has made as a freshman has been unbelievable. The fact she was able to dominate Kiki Iriafen twice, one of the best forwards in the country and a projected first-round pick, is scary. If that wasn't good enough, she cooked UCLA and South Carolina and was a major contributor to UConn winning their first championship since 2016. There's not many players who can legitimately do everything, but Sarah Strong is one of them. She can shoot, rebound, defend, pass, post up, and has underrated driving ability. Sarah Strong is a freshman and has stepped up in several big moments for her team. For the season, she averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. And in the tournament, she had one of the greatest performances ever by a freshman. During March Madness, she averaged 19 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists while shooting 64% from the field and 50% from the 3-point line. If she's looking like this as a freshman, who knows what she'll look like as a senior? If she just repeats what she did her freshman season throughout the rest of her career, she would be one of the best UConn players ever. At number 6, I'm going with Aneesah Morrow. There's a cliche saying that a player plays bigger than their height, but no one fits that description better than Aneesah Morrow. Her athleticism and motor make her a nightmare for anyone to deal with, regardless if they have the size advantage. Aneesah Morrow is one of the greatest rebounders the game has ever seen, which is evidenced by her being third all-time in rebounding. On top of that, she was LSU's leading scorer this year and able to take over in several games leading to wins. Aneesah Morrow absolutely dominated Florida State and North Carolina State. Without her ridiculous 30 and 19 game versus NC State, it's very possible they don't advance to the Elite Eight. For the season, she averaged just under 19 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 2.5 steals per game. The versatility she brought on both ends of the floor was extremely valuable to LSU, and I think it will be the same in the WNBA. I know she's undersized, but someone that plays with the motor and toughness of Aneesah Morrow is not something WNBA teams should pass up on. Now we get into the top 5, starting with Latson. She's averaging career highs in points, assists, steals, and rebounds. She shoots 45% from the field and 34% from 3, which is very efficient for a high-volume scorer. She's always had the scoring, but her improvement to her playmaking and defense has led Florida State to their best season under the Brooke Wyckoff era. She's already a lock to be a top 3 pick in next year's draft, but continued improvement in those areas will be the difference between her being a quality WNBA player or a star in that league. It's absolutely wild to me that she didn't make the top 10 Women Basketball Coaching Association's player list. I bet a lot of the coaches that didn't vote for her are pleading and begging her to come to their program. She's by far the most disrespected star in the game right now because she doesn't play for a flagship women basketball school. She's the best player in the transfer portal. And unless something super crazy, unexpected thing happens, I think it will stay that way. I'm not usually a fan of stars entering the portal, but Latson transferring at Florida State is a decision I fully support. She deserves better. There's no reason someone this good should be playing in empty arenas in every home game, and I would still argue the amount of publicity she gets isn't enough given her talent level. At number 4, I'm going with Hidalgo. With Olivia Miles coming back from her ACL injury, Hidalgo took on more of the shooting guard role, and for most of the season excelled in that role. She was the 5th leading scorer in the country, while shooting 46% from the field and a ridiculous 40% from 3. There was a point in the season where Notre Dame looked unstoppable, and Hidalgo was a big part of that. She outplayed Madison Booker, Juju Watkins, and Paige in head-to-head matchups, and Notre Dame won all of those games. She also never seems to get tired, even when she plays a lot of minutes, which means the other team has to be worried about where she is at all times. But as good as Hidalgo has been, I do think the regression in her passing has hurt Notre Dame. There were a lot of times where she got tunnel vision and forced bad shots when it would have been better to pass to another player. Even defensively, I would argue a lot of times she would over-gamble, which resulted in easy buckets for the other team. And it undeniably hurt Notre Dame in some games this year, most notably the Sweet 16, which is why I have 3 other players ahead right now. But make no mistake, Hidalgo is still one of the best players in the entire country. If she's able to combine her scoring efficiency this year with the playmaking she had her freshman season, she can be a National Player of the Year winner. Paige Bueckers is one of the most efficient scorers to ever play basketball. Every season she shot 50% from the field, and 3 out of the 4 years she shot over 40% from 3. The fact her overall field goal percentage is better than a lot of post players is ludicrous. What makes it even more impressive is she shoots a lot of shots off the dribble and shots where she's heavily contested. Paige Bueckers is truly a player that can only stop herself. When she's on her game, she's completely unguardable. At the beginning of this video, I talked about how valuable players are that can impact the game in multiple ways. Paige is the perfect embodiment of that. In addition to her lethal shooting, she's one of the best point guards in the country. Even when she's the primary ball handler, she almost never turns over the ball. She is also a very good defender. Her height and basketball IQ allow her to guard multiple positions, and she usually does well. Between her being a 3-time first-team All-American National Player of the Year and never missing a Final Four, there was only one more thing left for her to do: win a national championship. And that's exactly what she did. For all the criticism of Paige being passive, she was very aggressive in the tournament, and it paid off big time. Lauren Betts was far and away the best center in college, and I think she was the 2nd best player overall. She won National Defensive Player of the Year, and it's not hard to see why. She's averaging 3 blocks per game, and she does it with a force that makes the defense think twice about going back inside. And there's countless times where she alters a shot into a terrible one, or the opposing player doesn't even attempt to shoot when she's down in the paint. There's not another individual player that a team relies on more than UCLA does Lauren Betts. She's their leading scorer and rebounder, defensive anchor, and creates so many open looks for her teammates that she's able to capitalize on with her incredible passing ability. For the season, she averaged 20 points per game on an efficient 65% from the field and 3 blocks. And the tournament, she was even better as she boosted her field goal percentage to over 71% and averaged 23.5 points. What makes Lauren Betts so special is that she's impossible to completely take out the game. The defensive presence is always a nightmare to deal with, and she's impossible to guard in single coverage. And if you throw waves of defenders at her, she always hits the open person. Her team got destroyed by UConn, but that had nothing to do with Lauren Betts. And it doesn't take away from the fact UCLA won their major conference tournament championship and Final Four on the back of Lauren Betts. For the #1 player in the country, I'm going with Juju Watkins. She won all of the Player of the Year awards, and I agree with the voters' decisions. She had an incredible freshman season and came back even better during her sophomore run. She reduced her turnovers, is playing even better defense, and is still a scoring machine. The Juju critics will talk about her efficiency as she's shooting 42% from the field and 32.5% from 3. But when you contextualize the fact she's one of the highest usage rate player in the country and is constantly doubled, it's not nearly as bad as it's made out to be, especially when you factor in her defensive versatility. I would argue Juju was the best guard defender in the country, even more than Hannah Hidalgo. She can guard positions 1 through 4 and has held the opposing team's guard to some very ugly field goal percentages. The ability to average 4 stocks a game and being one of the leading scorers makes Juju a one of one. And what really makes Juju special is her ability to rise in the biggest games. There's been a lot of controversy with Juju winning a bunch of Player of the Year awards over Paige Bueckers. I have nothing bad to say about Paige, and I don't blame people for making the argument. But I'm still taking Juju. The offensive pressure and responsibilities is a lot more than what Paige has to deal with, because she didn't have 2 #1 ranked recruits on her team. Combine that with the fact Juju is a top 3 defender in the country is why I give her the edge over Paige. It's extremely unfortunate that she tore her ACL. Women's college basketball won't be the same without her next year, but I know she'll come back strong. But that's it for this video. I imagine there will be a lot of different opinions on this topic, and I'd love to hear them. Let me know where you would rank some players and where. I wanted to thank everyone who took the time to watch this video, and I hope everyone has a great day.